ಆಮಂತ್ರಣ ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ವೀಣಕ್ಕ ಬರೆದ ಹಾಗೆ ಅಪರೂಪಕ್ಕೆ ಒದಗುವ ದೊಡ್ಡವರ ಸಾನ್ನಿಧ್ಯ ಅದು ತುಂಬ ದೊಡ್ಡದು. ಬಲ್ಲವರು ಹೇಳುವ ಮಾತುಗಳು ನಮ್ಮ ಬದುಕನ್ನೇ ಬದಲಿಸಬಲ್ಲವು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈಗ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆಯನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಟ್ಟ MN ವೆಂಕಟಾಚಲಯ್ಯ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಉದ್ದೇಶಿಸಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಕರ್ಜಿಗಿ ಅವರೊಮ್ಮೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಅವರ ಉತ್ಸಾಹವನ್ನು ಗಮನಿಸಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ವಿಶ್ರಾಂತರು ನಿವೃತ್ತರು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಯಾವುದೋ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಬಿಡುಗಡೆಯಾದರೆ, ಯಾವುದೋ ಹೊಸ ಪೇಪರ್ ಸಬ್ಮಿಟ್ ಆದರೆ, ಯಾವುದೋ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಬಂದರೆ ಅದನ್ನೊಮ್ಮೆ ತರಿಸಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗಿರೋಷ್ಟು ಕುತೂಹಲ, ಅದನ್ನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರೀತಿಯನ್ನು, ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯವನ್ನು, ಆ ಅಭಿರುಚಿಯನ್ನು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ನಮ್ಮಂಥವರಿಗೆ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನವಾಗಬಲ್ಲವರು MN ವೆಂಕಟಾಚಲಯ್ಯ ಅವರು ಉದ್ಘಾಟನಾ ಭಾಷಣವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ.
ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ವೀಣಾ ಬನ್ನಂಜೆ ಅವರು ಮಾತನಾಡಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ, ಅದರ ಉದ್ದೇಶ, ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ಭಾಷಣ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. I wonder whether how I could explain my extraneous presence in this function. The only claim I can make to be entitled to be with you here today is that I have been close to Sri M for a long number of years. Of course, I have been a distant admirer of Sri Bannanje. So far as our today's scholar who is to be honored, we have had a brief introduction about his achievements and his contribution. Sri Mallepuram is a very respected friend of mine, and when I see these people together, I'm amazed at what destiny holds for this country. The four of them here represent perhaps the peak of our cultural glory, the occult, the spiritual, the mystic, and perhaps the finest integration, the greatest values of our civilization. A Greek writer who wrote a biography of Francis of Assisi, he called Francis God's Pauper. The book is called The God's Pauper. And in a brief introduction he says, what is the purpose of literature, spirituality, literature, art? He says, when I wrote this book about Francis, the story of this man is truer than truth itself. When I wrote, large teardrops have smudged my manuscript. A hand was hovering around me, a hand through which somebody had driven a nail, and somebody seems to be driving a nail throughout all eternity. And the purpose of art, literature, knowledge is to reduce everything to essence. The cruel struggle the artist, the philosopher, the pursuer of knowledge, attempts to transubstantiate the gross matter the Lord has entrusted us with into spirit. Essentially, what we see today they are the personifications of this effort in different ways. Shriyam, once I am marveled at the man's simplicity. I think the higher the man goes in the mystic, he forgets himself, and perhaps he thinks that everybody is part of him. I remember three of us, a senior police officer and a very eminent surgeon, and I went to his ashram. From 5 o'clock in the evening, it was almost 12 in the night when he patiently heard all our impertinent inquiries and impertinent questions. And the answers that he gave, each one understood it in our own limited limits of our own perception. Today, this function is a metaphor. It is, all of you are here, very respected, distinguished invitees, and this is not some kind of an entertainment. This is a very serious matter. And all of you have assembled here is again a metaphor for rediscovering our heritage and legacy. I think we, amidst all the din and bustle of modernity, the myths of modernity, the gifts of technology and science, everything will change. Society will not be the same 5 years hence. The society 5 years hence will have no resemblance to the one we live in today. Technology will change everything. 21st century will be the most stunning century in human civilization. And how does this effort integrate with what we are going to anticipate and arrive at 5 years hence? The essence is that everything that is material, power, wealth, status, authority, they are not evil. But they have a power of affecting the culture of the inner man. It will diminish you when you enhance your material comfort. It correspondingly decreases the quality of life. Standards of living up to a point are nice. Beyond that, standards of living will become inversely proportional to the quality of life. This is a search for how to sustain the quality of life and combat the dehumanizing forces of technology and economics. I think this is, in a non-trivial sense, an effort to see that the future generation is not totally lost in the midst of technology and whatever that is going to happen. Everything will be done. It's the machine intelligence, it's the robotics, artificial intelligence, and very little of your thought process can influence any area of our lives. And this metaphor of Bannanje Pratisthana is the message that society, the world, our own Indian ambience, how we perceive this as an effort to revive a means of combating technology. In fact, if you, most of you have read a beautiful book by a mathematician, Mr. Hardy. Professor Hardy was the mentor of Ramanujan. He wrote a book, A Mathematician's Apology. And in C.P. Snow, a great journalist, he wrote an introduction to it which is as big as the book itself. And he says, as the statement of the faith of the scientist, this book is the best book ever written. And he added, this is the best book ever going to be written in future. And that balance between science on one hand, technology, material wealth, prosperity in terms of materialism, and the culture of the inner man, this balance is to be provided by very many means of enhancing our cultural experience. Sri Yam is a great mystic. We have taken these four great people here in our society for granted. And when you spend time with them, each one of them, you will know how greatness sits lightly on their shoulders and how simple, childlike they are. Ramakrishna, the great morning star of Indian spiritual renaissance, once spoke of the force of change. He spoke of the inevitability of change by one simple metaphor. He said, the Mughal coins have no currency in the British rule. And that's what he said, you must prepare to accept change, and there is no eternity about these mundane affairs. The world is changing, and at this time, this foundation has a great task to do, to revive not merely the great storehouse of our ancient knowledge, but also to see how ordinary people, day-to-day living, we enhance the quality of life through the legacy of our heritage, the preciousness of our heritage. ನನಗೆ ಈ ವೀಣಾ ಬನ್ನಂಜೆ ಅವರ ಕಾರ್ಯ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಸ್ತುತ್ಯವಾದದ್ದು, ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಅಗತ್ಯವಾದದ್ದು. ಈ ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದ ಒಳಿತಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಒಂದು ರೂಪರೇಖೆಗಳು, ಅವರ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಒಂದು ಅದರ ವಿಶೇಷತೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಬೆಂಬಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಇದರ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್, internal message of this, you must grasp and see we are not in a position to imagine the magnitude of the changes that are going to occur in our society, in our lives, in the lives of our children and grandchildren. And it is impossible to estimate the kind of damage that might do to the culture of the inner man. And this is a great work. I am happy to be with you today, though I feel a little diminished when I see the eminence of these people. The area in which I worked was a mundane affair. For almost 60 years, I worked as a lawyer and a judge, and my revelation about our reality of our life struck me when I was chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, where I had occasion to examine 60,000 complaints of ordinary people, you and me, and the kind of tyranny of authority, the tyranny of power, the tyranny of authority of a few men over their fellow men, how that unfolds itself in society was something of a stark revelation to me. And we don't know whether we'll be able to find solutions for this problem. Modern market economy will produce enormous amount of growth. At the same time, it will produce unacceptable levels of inequality. How we will be able to reconcile these things is a great task. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really honored to be with you, honored to be able to sit along with these four great men and just contemplate what kind of a world we are going to grow into in this 21st stunning century, 21st century. And Bannanje Pratishthan is perhaps going to give us some solutions of our moral recovery and our ability to relate ourselves to the great changes that are ahead. Thank you very much for your patience and courtesy.